Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando Leduc, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in. What up? What up?
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Back at it. Doing well. Actually, just came back from a couple of book signings out of town. That went pretty well. So
Nice.
Had a good time with that.
Very good.
How are things going on your end?
Things are going really well.
All right.
So let's pop back. Let's pop right on in because we have
Yes.
been discussing podcasting, why you need it for your business. And I wanted to, here's a really cool thing that we're doing behind the scenes that I kind of want to let everybody know that's happening right now.
All
So
right.
I'm actually writing the book here with Gideon, and this is how we're doing it. I'm taking my podcast, I'm taking all of the table of contents that are in the book, and then me and Gideon are just having a discussion about those. That way, when we go in to write the actual book, we can infuse my voice into the book. A lot of times with ghostwriting, I think that's one of the things that's missing sometimes from these books. And so I'm like, well, let's, yeah, you got to have the voice in there, right? So we're in there and we're making it happen. And so that's just a tip for you guys. If you guys are looking at, hey, how can I write a book in the next 6 months? What I would recommend is create a table of contents on what you want the book to be like, right? Get on a podcast, have someone like Gideon or you know, one of your staff members, friend, family, whatever, get them to ask you questions about all of the table of contents in your book. And in 6 months, you will have a finished book. So
You can also contact people. You know, we know a guy.
And you can contact Gideon. Hit him up if you guys want somebody to help you write a book. Gideon over here will help you write the book. So get it done.
I'll be your
all right.
Huckleberry.
Let's pop on in because we're going to talk about all of the things on why people need a podcast and why you should be doing it right now. Because I know everybody's all afraid of what? They're afraid of recession. They're afraid of depression. They're afraid of the new administration. They're afraid of all kinds of shit.
Amen, brother.
Not even be afraid of, right? Because when you realize how abundant your life is, and when you realize how much there is, how much is out there, I mean, dude, it is incredible.
Well, also, let me just throw this out there because I was having a lot of conversations about that this weekend. If you want to like make your life more, I don't know if I want to say recession proof, but definitely recession resistant, take control of your own destiny. You know, find a niche that you can facilitate that will allow you to go through the peaks and valleys rather than be at the mercy of your employer and what their needs are.
100%, 1,000%. Now's the time, guys. If you guys want to make money, now is the time. You can monetize pretty much everything online if you know how to do it. And so I'm giving you guys my tools on how I use podcasting to grow a business, to grow your brand, to grow authority, thought leadership, the whole nine. So if you guys take notes, pay attention, you know, you can always subscribe and listen to Spaghetti on the Wall on Spotify, Apple Music, because I'm giving you guys all of the information for free. So just the implementation is what's the difficult part. So let's roll into this. Who should be doing a podcast? I mean, who should be doing a podcast? I think every single person should have a podcast. I really do. I really believe that every single person should have a podcast. And this is why. Because you're using it for a variety of different reasons. You'll go, Armando, is anybody going to watch my podcast? And at first they won't. And that's okay, right? Most podcasts fail within the first 10 episodes. However, they've made it so easy to create podcasts right now that if you use the right software, I'm using StreamYard right now. They make it super easy for you guys to create podcasts. And so if you're looking at, I want to create a personal brand, I want to create thought leadership, I want to grow my business, I want to increase sales, I want to make more money at my job, I want to make myself more valuable, then these are the reasons why I think you should start a podcast.
Right. And also in the beginning, while you're kind of honing your craft in that regard, getting studio set up, getting better lighting, getting better microphones, getting more comfortable with it. It's kind of nice that your audience isn't huge right off the bat. Let your first few episodes cut your teeth on it.
Yeah. And I think here's a phrase I want everybody to implement in their lives starting right now. Sloppy execution is better than perfect procrastination. You just got to start.
Yeah.
Right? You just got to get in there and you just got to begin. Because the problem is people are going to sit and they're going to think about why they can't do something. They're going to sit and think about, oh, I can't because of this, or I can't because of that. And those are all excuses as to why you shouldn't be starting.
Right.
Because when you start, you're going to learn a whole new set of things that you wouldn't have learned unless you begin the process, because you can't learn this thing by osmosis. You can't learn this thing by reading, and you can't, or listening. You actually have to do the thing. So I encourage you guys to just start. It's going to be crap at the beginning anyway, so just start. It doesn't matter.
Just get it going. Yeah.
Right.
Contact a few friends that have similar interests or are in the industry that you're in, or the industry that you want to be in. And then start talking with them, and then see what light bulbs go off in the episode as you start honing in on your niche.
100%. Look, I was afraid at the beginning to start my own podcast. I was afraid, just like everybody else is afraid. Well, who's going to listen to me? Why would they listen to me? Who's going to tune in? Are people going to talk shit about me? All of the different head trash, and they're not. Actually, they're not. When you first start out, people are going to be super encouraging. The hate starts later. The hate begins way past the line. And by then you have tough skin and you don't really give a shit. So don't even worry about it. But at the very beginning, everybody's super encouraging. Everybody's like, oh yeah, you should totally do this. Absolutely. I want to support you. I'll follow you. I'll subscribe, whatever. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to support you at the beginning. So don't really worry about that. Okay. So who should start a podcast? Everybody should start a podcast. Like I said, if you're a musician looking to grow, if you're an actor looking to grow, a writer, entrepreneur, attorney, like whoever, start a podcast, start inviting people. We'll talk about strategy later. Okay. You know what? I'm going to let you ask these questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Okay. So just to jump right in. So what initially motivated you to start your business, and how did you kind of envision it going? How did you envision the growth from the beginning?
So what initially motivated me to start my business and to start this podcast was I wanted a vehicle to, one, be able to serve people, right? And help people. I didn't start the business to necessarily make money. I'm not necessarily a money hungry person. That doesn't really motivate me. I know a lot of people are motivated by money. I'm just not. I'm more motivated by seeing somebody grow, helping people, showing them that they can do things that they would have not thought they could have done, right? And just motivating. Yeah, and just inspiring. Yeah, I always, that's the driving force anyway. Like I have a mastermind that I do, and I'm always just trying to pour into people, right? Because if they can realize that they're enough and that they're living their authentic life, and they're, when they get to those points in life where they can strip away all of the judgment and they can start living their lives unapologetically, that's when you're living a good life. In my opinion, that's when you're living a life that's like, I'm living true to myself. I'm not sitting around worrying, and I'm taking advantage of what life has to offer. And so that's what inspires me on a daily basis. That's the core values that I live by. That's the core values that I instill in my business. Everybody that I hire in my organization gets hired based on these core values. Because if they're not living it, then they're not living what how we help people and the mindset that goes into why I even started a business in the first place. So that's why I initially started a business and why I want to grow this thing.
Okay. And what were some challenges that you faced, early on?
Challenges that I faced early on. Oh man, there's challenges every single day.
Or,
But
okay, I can.
but I
I
will
can,
say this. But I will say this: the challenges that I faced early on in the business was the head trash that I was telling myself, which is what I'm telling you guys right now, is that all of the things that you guys are telling yourself as to why you can't do it are self-imposed obstacles. There's going to be enough obstacles anyway, right? You don't need to
Why add to it?
self-impose obstacles, right? And so once I started letting go of the head trash and I started getting mentorship and I started going into masterminds, I started realizing that I was the one holding myself back. And so when I started looking at obstacles and problems as opportunities to grow and an opportunity to figure something out and be better, then my mindset shifted. And it's all mindset. Like it's all right here. Like you can make as much money as you want if you can change this. And a lot of people don't understand that they're just self-imposed limiting beliefs that they just got to crack through because of childhood trauma, childhood experiences that they are hanging on to, and all of this baggage that people are hanging on to that they can't let go. And that's what's holding them back more than anything, more than all of the obstacles on how to grow a business and operations and hiring and recruiting and the whole nine. Like
Right.
the biggest thing that you have to get over on a regular basis, and it's something that I still work on. This is why I read books and why I go to masterminds, and is because I've got to continuously get rid of the head trash, because there's just head trash of years and years and years of conditioning, because you're conditioned through parents, family, teachers to stay status quo and to stay in
Right.
line and put a top on it and put a lid on it. And Armando, calm down. Armando, stop doing this. And Armando, stop. And why are you doing this? And Armando, that's weird. And Armando, I had to hear that my entire life. And it wasn't, yeah. And you get it, right? Like it, but I found that once I could let go, and once I started letting go of the head trash, I started excelling. Abundance started coming. The manifestations.
Have you ever listened to Ernest Nightingale?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Kind of the OG. And he builds it up for a while in the series, but his big realization that he shares with everybody is that he says you are what you think about all the time.
100%. Yeah.
And that is so true, especially in today's multimedia bombardment, and all the things that we let into our head, through our feed, through the media that we consume.
Yeah.
So if, like you're talking about, if you're filling up your day with masterminds and meetings with like-minded people and mentorship and reading books that inspire and motivate you, that's going to change your headspace. It has to. Versus if you're just doom scrolling and talking to other people that are very negative and are just stuck where they are. And they're like, oh, dude, nothing's ever going to work out for you because it can't. And then that becomes your reality.
Yeah.
And we could go, that could be a whole other episode. So that's the beginning. So what were some of the challenges that you faced during growth for your business?
So challenges that I faced during growth of my business is that I was focused on the operations, and I thought, and look, operation is super important, right? You want to create a machine if you want to scale a business.
Right.
But I was too focused on the operations and the doings instead of sales and marketing, right? And when you're zero to 2 million in revenue, sales and marketing has to be the number one priority, because if you don't have money coming in, it doesn't matter if your operations are amazing. It doesn't matter if you have all of the right things in place. You have to focus on sales and marketing if you want to grow a company. And so comes to creating an offer that everybody wants, right? And then that goes back to what is the need? How are you filling that need? Niching down. And we've talked about this in detail in terms of how you can grow a company. And when you really figure out and hone in on who you serve and what problems they have, you have a business, because people are going to pay you to solve the problem. They're hungry, they're going to go eat. Their houses are dirty. They're going to pay a housekeeper to come in, keep it clean. They need a salesperson. They're going to hire a salesperson. Like all of the things that they need, you figure out how to solve that problem and solve it really well, so that on the other end of that equation, they get the result. You will have a growing business. And so the biggest obstacle that I had was, once again, head trash, and then focusing on the wrong things, which is why I created this method. Because I was like, how can I create something that somebody could implement into their business and 6 months later see, extreme growth? And so that's what we did. We said, okay, how can we create a referral partnership vehicle where we could bring in all of the referral partners that work within our niche, so that they could just refer us business all day, every day, all day, every day, all day, every day. Right? Okay. Give you an example. If you're an actor, right? And you're like, hey, I want to act. I want to get more business. I want to get more acting jobs. Then what I would do is I would create a list of casting directors. I would create a list of agents. I would create a list of producers. I would create a list of all the people that are in that space. I would create a podcast, and then I would invite all of those people to my podcast. Why? Because it's all relationship based. It is all relationship based. So if you create the relationships and those people know you, when it's time to hire, they're going to think of you. And so that's what we did, essentially, is we created the system so that we can go, okay, who are the referral partners in our niche? And how do we get them to remember us? And how do we stay top of mind with those people? Because I think too many people are concerned with social media on, oh, I want to talk to everybody. And when you talk to everybody, you talk to nobody. So
yeah,
when you figure that out and you niche it down and you go, hey, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. I don't need everybody to follow me. I just need the right people to follow me. And I know that on my social media pages, the people that follow me are my referral partners, my avatar, people that I work with, people that want to work with me, and I've dialed it in. And so that's how I've been using my podcast.
Well, because also that's another part of, networking and relationships that I don't feel really gets covered a lot, is that ultimately you want to work with people that you gel with, because if you're constantly chasing clients that are not your type of people, and they are not people that you're really going to connect and do good work with, it's going to stress you out. It's going to bring down the energy and morale of you and your team. Whereas if you're continuously finding like-minded people, that growth will be not just upwards, but also a morale boost, throughout
100%. I've also learned so much doing my podcast. One, you learn because you're teaching, right? Like if you really want to learn something, teach it to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
That's how you're really going to learn something. And so we found through this process, I've had the pleasure of interviewing some amazing people, and just getting to the psychology of how they think and why they think and what their mindset was like. It really had an impact on me. And like I said, you start hanging out with these people, they're going to share with you their insight, and you create the relationships. All of a sudden, when the timing is right and these people are like, oh, hey, I have a friend that needs a podcast, or hey, I need a friend that needs social media, or hey, I have a friend that needs this. They're like, oh yeah, Armando, he'll handle it. And you're going to have a good time too. So that's what I would do. That's why you should have a podcast.
What was the sort of realization that made you realize you needed to make a change or make a shift in how you were doing business?
I'm glad. That's a good question. The reason why I changed the process and the system was because I'm always hyper aware of what is everybody doing. What is everybody doing? And you'll notice that there'll be a marketing trend or there'll be a sales trend, and everybody will start doing that. And then it just gets littered with that. And then everybody's doing that. And so I'm going, okay, this is what everybody else is doing. How can I come over here and how can I do this? And so I knew that I had to change direction, and I had to change the system, because this is what everybody is used to. And I'm going to tell you right now, y'all write this down. I'm telling you right now, if all you're doing is leaning on AI, you are messing up. I'm not saying don't use AI. 100% use AI. It is a game changer for your business. However, I think too many people are relying on AI for everything, and they're forgetting the biggest, most important piece of the puzzle when it comes to human beings, and that is relationships.
Yeah.
People want to talk to people. They want to do business with people. They want to follow people.
I was listening to it's a AI sales platform where they put together an AI sales agent, and they're like, it sounds so realistic. It sounds so realistic. And I was listening to conversations that this AI was having. I'm like, this AI sounds bored and kind of stoned. Like they don't sound connected with the person they're talking to. Yeah, they're it's realistic pauses and it was too realistic to the point where it just sounded like the AI did not want to be there.
Right.
And I was like, okay, if that's the message you're trying to send, I guess, but I don't know if that's I would maybe tweak the parameters a little bit on that one.
Look, and it's going to get better and better.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like AI is going to get better and better. But it will never replace the human connection.
Right.
It just won't.
And like you said, if everybody else is doing it, then your business is going to look like everybody else's business.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you get lost in the shuffle. So what are your or what were your goals? And I feel like we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to delve a little bit more into externally and internally. What were your goals for getting into business?
So my external goals for getting into this business was, I knew that if I wanted to create impact, that I had to have a business that was sustainable, that could pay me to live the life that I wanted in order for me to have the resources to hire the right people so that as we grew, we could create more and more impact. And I'll tell you internally why this was important to me. Here's my story. As a kid growing up, and I know we've already had this sort of discussion, I was always sort of this weird kid.
All right.
I just didn't think like everybody else. I just was super, I went against the grain. I was always entrepreneurial mind. I always had an entrepreneurial mind since I was a kid. I'm sitting here in school being forced to follow the system that wasn't meant for everybody. Yet I was being forced into it.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have had someone that could have given me the okay and the support to say, hey, you're okay. You're normal. You're a normal person. Instead of always making me feel like I was this outcast and that I didn't belong. Right. And it didn't help also that I was an Army brat. So every 3 years I had to move.
Ooh.
Right. So every 3 years I had to start over and I had to start over and I had to start over.
You're always the new kid.
And I was always a new kid. Right. So you couple that with this feeling of being different anyway, like across the board. And so I had a really tough time. And so I wish that I could have had more people, and luckily we have the internet now, but I wish I would have had more people around me that were also like-minded, which is why I love going to masterminds and I'm around other entrepreneurs and I'm involved in organizations with other people that had the same upbringing, right? Like Gino Wickman, I had him on my show and we had the same discussion, which was like, look, we were totally different. We were totally weird. We were totally outcast, but that was okay. But nobody told us it was okay.
Right.
And so I never wanted people to feel like that something was wrong with them, right? Like I never wanted people to feel that. And so when I put a business together, I said, how can we create an environment where we can empower people to feel good about what they're doing, that they can go out and they can create impact, right? And have a vehicle that if they could get over the head trash and they can get over the imposter syndrome, they can get over all of that stuff and start living the life that they were truly meant to live, that they could go out and they could create impact. And now we're compounding that impact because we're teaching other people and we're empowering other people to be cool with who they are.
Right.
And that they can share their message on social media. They can share their message on podcasting. They have a sustainable business model, a system that they can implement into their business so that they can grow. And those were the internal motivations that I had on why I wanted to grow a business. Not just, and I like I said before, I was never money hungry. I don't care about money. I think money's just a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my driving force. It's not why I get up in the morning. I'm not getting up in the morning to go make money, right? I get up in the morning to go, how can I be of service and how can I help people? That's what drives me.
I feel like there could be a whole other workshop, class, seminar about just networking and mentorship, about finding a network and finding a mentor, but that would get us way off tangent.
Well, there's time. There's time.
All right. And I did want to say this, and I don't know that you get enough credit for this. Now, I'm somebody that's known you for a while. And I know that there's a lot of people that are, hey, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a business person. And I did this and I did that. And sadly, it's not always true in the airspace. And people kind of have to figure out how to filter through that. Or people, get busted for being like, oh, you were just using your dad's credit card to get this, So for anybody that's not familiar with Armando already, he did not have his dad's credit card. He did not have a bunch of backing. Like, you really did this from nothing. Like, you started from the bottom and now you're here. And it's been a great journey to watch, but like this guy's the real deal. And I know I'm a guest on his show, but like, I feel like that's something you're not going to pat yourself on the back for it. So I'm going to.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Just let people know, like, this guy had a mission in his mind and manifested it, like, just made it happen, connected with the right people, found the mentors, did the work. So when he's sharing these tidbits, they're not theoretical. It's stuff that he's actually done and he's actually is doing. And so I wanted to take a moment to share that.
I appreciate, dude. Thank you. Thank you for that. This is what I will say on that too. I have had help. I've had help, right? Like, there were people out there that believed in me. And I'm reading a really good book. It's called Go for Stupid. It's awesome. It's an awesome book. But it really is the fact that this guy, so what this guy does, his name is Simon. And he creates, memorable experiences for his clients. Like, one of his clients, he, set up a private dinner where Andrea Bocelli sang privately. And like, yeah. And what was in the book, what's crazy is that he said sometimes people are just afraid to ask. Like, there's so many opportunities that we could have in our life if we just ask for them, right? And so that, and it was a really, like, just eye-opening book once again to remind us that we are our own obstacles. We are our own worst enemies. Right. And when we can get rid of the head trash and realize what's really possible and let go and go, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? They're going to laugh at me. And that's what stops a lot of people. I will tell you this, that a lot of people will be held back because they can't handle being laughed at or ridiculed in any kind of way. They don't want to be reprimanded. They don't want to be hated on. They don't want any of that. And so because they're so afraid of that, they will not move forward. And that's just, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah. I mean, I even kind of approached dating that way. I think I was accused by some friends about kicking my coverage. And they're like, how do you do it? Like, and I'm like, I'm not suave. I'm not an athlete. I was like, I just talk to more people than anybody.
You are suave. You are suave.
Well, thank you. But, I just talked to lots of people. And that was one of the things why I ended up expanding my network at certain points, was because I was just always being like, hey, who are you? What are you into? Oh, okay, cool. I also like this other thing, and we would connect from there. Again, another rabbit hole there. Let me get back onto so how did these goals of yours evolve as you were encountering challenges?
So the goals evolved as I grew into the next plane, right?
Okay.
Like the challenges you're going to have at the very beginning are going to be different than the challenges you're going to have 6 months from then, or a
Right.
year from then, or 2 years from then, right? Like the obstacles never stop. And that's one thing that you just gotta understand, that the obstacles or the opportunities
Ah,
never stop. They just never stop. It's always a learning experience. It's always a growing. If you're not growing, you're dying, period. It's just, things just don't stay still. So as you grow, you're just going to have more opportunities to be great, right? And it's just, if you approach these obstacles as ways to be better, you'll grow and you'll be better. I'll give you an example. Cannon, who's listening, my sales manager, right? As we're growing our follow-up touch points and all of the processes and procedures and really getting granular about that work, we at times didn't know what we didn't know, right? We would try something
yeah.
and we would go, is this the best way to do it? And if you're not taking note and inventory on a regular basis as to what are you doing and is it working, which is why mentorship and masterminds are super important, because you can
Mhm.
always bring those to the group and they can help you solve it, especially if they've already been through it. However, if you're in a blue ocean, do you know blue ocean and red ocean? Are you
Mm-mm.
familiar with blue ocean strategy? So blue ocean strategy is a marketing term where they're talking about, if you're in blue ocean, something new, you don't really have a lot of competition. Red ocean, it's a feeding frenzy, right? Everybody's competing, everybody's sort of doing their thing. So when you're in this blue ocean strategy, a lot of the things that you're doing, you're pioneering, right? Like you're the first one to do this thing. And so what we found is, during our invites for podcasting, and we're trying to get the right qualified people, referral partners, potential clients, what we did was we would call law firms or whatever, and we would ask, hey, Gideon, would love to have you on the show. It's called Partnership for Profit, blah, 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 blah. We'd give you the spiel. And then what we would do is we would leave the calendar link on you for you to book a time. And that was our first touch. And we went through about 2 months where the response rate was okay, right? It wasn't great. And we're like, okay, what's the problem here? Why are we not getting as many at bats as we should be? And so we sat back, we did some brainstorm sessions, found out that if we gave a time, right? So if I said, hey, Gideon, I have a podcast coming up next week on Wednesday at 2 p.m., there was a sense of urgency. There was a time, there was a date. And then what happened was people would respond. So our podcast show up rate increased 75%. But we wouldn't have known this had we not taken inventory of all of the things that we were doing and what those outcomes were of those particular things. And so, to get a long story short, to get back to the answer to that question, as far as obstacles are concerned, is that at every stage of the process, you're going to have different obstacles and different opportunities. But if you're not taking inventory of what it is that you're doing, you're not going to be able to streamline the process. And look, find people that have already been there. They can help you shortcut. That way you don't have to keep bashing your head against the wall trying to figure things out when the solution is already clear.
Right.
So sometimes you just got to reach out to the right person.
So and I feel like you've already given us a little bit of that. What were some of the strategies or methods that you initially tried to achieve your goals, and then why did some of them fall short?
It's so funny that the name of this podcast is called Spaghetti on the Wall, because that's how I live my life. The reason why I called this podcast Spaghetti on the Wall is because that's how I just operate, right? I'm like,
Right.
hey guys, once again, it's the sloppy execution is better than perfect procrastination. I know that if I go and do something, I'm just going to learn. But here's the thing that I figured out It's not just throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. It's throwing spaghetti on the wall and nurturing what sticks, right? And that's the difference. That's the key right there. That changed my mindset, is like, this is working, right? And I took it from improv. I took it from learning improv, because improv, what they tell you is, what is the weird and interesting thing? That is the first thing that you have to find in any scene when you're doing improv. Because once you figure out what the weird and interesting thing is, then you can play that and then you can heighten it. Until you find the weird or interesting thing, or the thing that works, you have nothing, right? And so you figure you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. You're doing your market research. You're doing all of that stuff. You finally see something. Okay, you see the weird or interesting thing, right? Or the thing that's potentially going to work. Nurture the shit out of that thing, right? And then let go of everything else for now, right? You can throw spaghetti on the wall later, but I think a lot of people, especially visionaries, they'll throw spaghetti at the wall. They'll see something that sticks. They'll play with it for a little bit, and then they're on to something else. Stay focused, right? And this is why I say you got to niche down. You got to figure out who you're talking to. Everybody is not your client. Everybody is not your avatar. Everybody is not a subscriber. And that's okay. Figure out who that person is. Nurture what's sticking, and then just heighten the hell out of it, right? Heighten that thing.
How do you heighten it?
Going all in.
Okay.
Going all in. And I was just listening to David Nagel's podcast on mindset. It's really good. But one of the things that he talks about is you cannot bargain with the universe. Can't bargain with it.
Okay.
If you want this thing, then you got to go all in on it. What are you willing to do for that thing? And if you go all in and you jump off the cliff with no net, the universe will provide. The universe will help you. The universe will put the things in place that you need so that you can succeed. The minute you start bargaining with it, the minute you start negotiating, the universe is like, oh, he doesn't want this. She doesn't want this. So they're not going to give it to you.
When you're negotiating, you're being passive. You're hoping that something just kind of falls into place rather than going forward and then finding the things that you can put in place along the way.
It's what you talked about before, right? Earl Nightingale talks about, like, what you think about, you become.
Yes.
If you're all in, you will see the things, right? It's like when you buy a new car and, and a GMC, like I drive a GMC Sierra. Every single time I'm on the road, I notice when there's a GMC Sierra. Always.
Yeah.
Because I drive it. That's the thing. That's what I mean by, like, nurturing what sticks. If you're all in on that one thing, then that's the filter in which you look at everything. You go, oh shit, that's showing up in my life because that's what I want. This is also showing up in my life because that's what I want. This person is showing up in my life because that's what I want. And now all of a sudden, the opportunities and the blessings will start coming to you because you're focused and you're all in on that thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I'm thinking of, like, different applications to it in other places. What was the turning point for you when you realized you needed to take a new approach to things?
Turning point. If you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting the same things.
Okay.
And so, so I got mentorship from a friend of mine who has a company called 8-Figure Firm, and he was teaching other attorneys how to scale their businesses. And he said, Armando, you got $1 million business. You just don't know how to get there. And I said, okay, what do you propose? And he said, I propose you work with me for $2,500 a month. And I was like, gulp, right?
Right.
It goes back to, what are you willing to go all in on in order to grow? Because I didn't have $2,500. I put it on a credit card, right? I went into debt to get the information.
Well, we're on this. Okay.
Yeah. But as a result of going all in that year, I went from $69,000 a year in revenue to $500,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
But I went all in.
Yeah.
I went all in. And because I was focused on that, and I was like, oh, this is what I need to do. everything started coming at me because had I not been focused on that, I wouldn't have those glasses on to see the filter in order for me to even know that those were the things that were coming into my life to help me. Does that make sense?
Yes. Now I want to ask this. How did you know that 8-figure firm was the right fit for you?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. I write every day, right? I got this
Pages.
I got this thing. Yeah, the pages from the book, The Artist's Way, which is it's
Julia Cameron. Yeah.
It's somewhere. Anyway,
I-
but the 3, it says, write 3 pages a day. And in my notes, I was just like, and that's how I connect to the universe. I'm like, I want this and bring people in my life that are going to help me take things to the next level, and there are going to be signs all around. You just got to take advantage. Right. And they might be scary. Right. And the scarier, the better. Right. Like now I'm always looking at, okay, what's the next level? How can I take the next leap of some scary stuff in order for me to like really get to that next point? And so if you start thinking about those things and you go, you know what, I'm going all in and I'm going to overextend myself, but the universe will understand that you are overextending yourself and you've jumped off the cliff and you're doing your thing, right? And you're flying. It's going to help you build the airplane on the way down.
And I hear what you're saying. It sounds funny, but it's like what's the old saying? Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
So when you're putting yourself in a position where it's like, okay, I have to come up with a solution to this. I can't do this 2 months from now, next year, 5 years now. Then the neurons start firing and you go into problem solving mode.
The story of burning the boats, right?
Yes. Was it the Trojans that did, not Trojans, the Menelaus?
Could have been I heard it was Cortez.
Okay.
But Cortez, the Spanish conquistador, he would sail over to these islands, and he didn't give his crew an opportunity. He burned the boats, and he's like, you either take over this island or you die. Right. And so the concept is like you burn your boat. You don't give yourself an option. There is no plan B. There's only plan A. So you make plan A work, period. That's it.
Yeah.
But people don't have the courage to do it because they have all of the head trash, and goes all the way back to the very beginning of this podcast, is that if you can release the self-imposed obstacles that we have, and if we can remove the head trash and we understand that it's all here, it's all mental, and we can let go of that, we will start to see the abundance that's all out there for us. And we can grow very, very quickly.
And it seems like podcasting is a really good way to make and increase that network. So let's it brings me to my next question. What inspired you to consider podcasting as a solution to the challenges in your business? What made you decide that was the way to go?
It just happened by accident.
Okay.
That how podcasting became the thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis was like, hey man, you got to be creating content on a regular basis. And I said, okay. I've always wanted to do a show. Didn't know what I was going to call it. I just was going to use it as a content generation vehicle. I was just going to use it as a way to just create content. Did not think I was using it as a referral source or anything like that. I just was like, all right, well, I'm going to create a show. Did 200 episodes of Spaghetti on the Wall. And what I found was that a lot of the people that I was bringing onto my show became clients, or some of the people that I brought on my show became referral partners. And they were just referring me business, and I was growing my business. And I was like, holy shit, hold on. You got to take note, right? You got to take inventory, got to see what's happening. And so I saw that the podcast was an amazing vehicle to help with all of the different things that I needed. It was a one-stop shop for content, one-stop shop for thought leadership, one-stop shop for branding, one-stop shop for referral partnerships, one-stop shop for sales, one-stop shop for marketing. I mean, it was just like hit all of the boxes. So I was like, well, if I ignore this, I'm an idiot. So I just, all right, I went in all on that. And we went in all on podcasting. You have to go all in, remember? So we went all in on it and we started figuring it out and we started seeing what the nuances were around it. We were starting to figure out what's the best way to deliver it and what's the best way to find the people and what's the best way to structure it and what's the best way to ask questions and what's the best way to do this, best way to do that. And then like all the best practices started to happen, but that doesn't happen. And you cannot create best practices and service standards and KPIs and all of that stuff for your business if you don't go all in on the one thing, which is why I preach niching down all the time. If you're an entrepreneur, you gotta niche down, because if you niche down, then you can figure out what the nuances are surrounding that thing. And so we figured out very quickly that podcasting was the thing. So much so, we went all in so much so that we were putting a podcast out once a week, right? Do you know how many podcasts we're producing internally for our company right now?
So I know there's Spaghetti on the Wall. I know there's the podcast.
Yeah, the Partnership for Profit one. Just Partnership for Profit. I'm not even talking about Spaghetti on the Wall.
Like how many Partnership for Profits are being made?
On a monthly basis.
4 to 8.
40.
We're
doing 40 podcasts a month for Partnership for Profit. Wow. 40. Do you know where I'm taking it here in the next 6 months?
What's that?
200 podcasts a month. Why? Because I know that if I talk to the right people on a regular basis, that I will skyrocket my company. I know that this process works. I'm all in. So now, when we were talking about, okay, what are the obstacles that happen later on, right? Because the obstacles I had when I first started the podcast are not the obstacles that I have now. Now I have the obstacle of I've got to find a slew of podcast hosts. If I want to get to 200 episodes, right? So now I've got to go, okay, where do I find these podcast hosts? How do I train them properly? You know, how do I implement them into the system? Perfect. The great thing is that we have a system that we can plug them into. So now
is huge.
So now we'll figure out, okay, what's the best way to recruit and hire? And then we'll have the best practices on how to do that. Right. And so as we grow, we'll get to, grow and get bigger at that.
Were there any, like worries, concerns, fears you had in the beginning about getting the podcast going?
Yes. The fears that I had about podcasting were who's going to listen to it. What am I going to sound like? What am I going to look like? What is it going to be about? Is anybody going to care?
All right.
Is it profitable? What's the point? Like once again, all of the head trash that we think about and just self-imposed obstacles or making up problems that don't even exist yet. I think that's a lot of things. A lot of times people will prevent themselves from moving forward because they will think about problems that don't even exist today, that they exist like a month, 2, 3 months down the road that may or may not even be a problem. It may not even be a problem, but they're stopping themselves from doing that because they think it will be a problem. And once again, we are what we think about. So if you think it's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
It will be a problem. But if you don't think it's going to be a problem, then just move forward. It's the head trash.
Yeah. Yeah. Were there any obstacles? Were there any like real obstacles that you kind of faced in the beginning of getting the podcast going?
Viewership for me was like a big thing, which is why I always say it. I always say it because like you see it and like maybe one person sees it or your mom watches it, nobody else, and that can kind of get demoralizing, right? But if you focus on the right things, which is what I'm, which is why I'm trying to say it and repeat and repeat and repeat. By the way, people only remember 17% of a conversation, and that is only if they're paying attention. Sometimes they're on the phone, but that's why I'm saying it over and over again, is that the head trash of why I'm not going to start my podcast is because people are not going to watch the podcast. People are not going to watch your podcast at the beginning anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
Just start the podcast anyway.
But
it doesn't matter.
But the initial podcast is what's going to build the audience.
Correct. If we're focused,
it will come.
That's it. And here's the deal, if you want to make it a sustainable business model, which is why we're always focused on bringing in our referral partners, creating referral partnerships. That's step one. Niche down, figure out who your referral partners are so that you can use this as a relationship building vehicle, right? You build the relationships with quality time. Then you have a nice follow-up strategy, and then they're gonna refer you business. Dude, I got one guy. You are one person away from exploding your business. I got one referral partner that refers us $500,000 just by himself. One person can change your entire organization.
Right.
If you find the right person that goes, hey, I don't do what you do. Would love to have you guys as a white label or somebody that we can refer to because they need this. For us, SEO companies, right, that do pay-per-click and all of that stuff that we don't even touch. We don't touch websites. We don't touch SEO. We don't touch any of that. However, what do they all need? Video. And they want a good partner that they can partner with.
Right.
And so all of those people, where do they send them? Right over here, Leduc Entertainment.
Boom.
And then if all my focus is to make sure that my referral partners feel special and that I want to connect with them and that I value them and that I also refer them business.
Yes.
Now we have a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to really grow your company, find those referral partnerships. Right. And also, using podcasting as the key.
Well, like you said, make it a reciprocal relationship as soon as you can.
100%. 100%. Here's another little tip that you guys can write down. There's a book. It's called The 5 Love Languages. I told you guys that everything in business is relationships. Everything. It's just relationships. You're talking to a person. The person is a person. Just because they own a business does not mean that they cease to be a human being.
Right.
They're a person. How do I connect with that person? Words of affirmation, acts of service, gift giving, quality time. And then the 5th one is touch. Be careful with that one. We don't want to incorporate that, but we just use the 4, right? We use acts of service, words of affirmation, gift giving, and quality time. The quality time I spend with them on a podcast, right? That's my quality time. Words of affirmation. Gideon, amazing job on the podcast. Dude, when they post on social media, I'm the first one. Amazing content. Love it, right? I give gifts every 3 to 6 months, right? Acts of service. I introduce them to my network on a regular basis. That's gold right there. If you want to increase a relationship with somebody in business, refer them to your network on a weekly basis. Just introduce them to somebody else in your network. That alone will keep you top of mind in the best way possible.
Right. Because now there's a value add of you being involved, 100%. Right there. And then, like you said, that's a gift. That is something you were giving to somebody else.
That is a whole and we'll cover all of that in detail later on in the book. So this is just sort of the beginning of the book, but Gideon, I got to pop off because I got a sales call here in a second.
Yep.
But hey, look, guys, I appreciate you guys listening. If you guys have questions, if you guys are like, hey, I really want to know more about what it is that you're doing, follow me on my social media pages. You can always reach out, DM me. Super responsive. I've got a school group community of some courses that I'll give you for free if you guys want to take a look at it and show you guys how to monetize your podcast. reach out to me. And we will be back later on. So stay tuned, subscribe. Appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in.
Gideon, thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.